Okay, can everybody from the other side, folks, if you want to come somewhere around here, that'll be perfectly fine. This is going to be a 75-minute session. Quick introduction, my name is Karthik Bharti. I'm the senior PM in the BizTalk team. In today's session, we're going to talk about B2B, specifically some of the scenarios and the capabilities that we are enabling on Windows Azure. And you've already heard sessions from Sriram and Javed talk about Windows Azure BizTalk services. So we'll go into the deeper aspects of B2B. Okay, key takeaways of the session. First and foremost, you already know BizTalk services on Azure is in public preview, so you can actually sign up for it right now, try out the features, give it a test drive, and of course, we are eagerly awaiting your feedback. The second key takeaway for today's session is B2B is a key scenario on BizTalk services. It's also a key scenario for BizTalk server, so you should think of this as extending some of the capabilities that are already there on BizTalk server. And I would also like to acknowledge that many of our partners are going live on the platform as we speak. And they are delivering end-to-end solutions for EDI and soon for EAI as well. And for today's session, we'll be talking into the why and the what of the B2B capabilities. Feel free to have this session interactive. You could pause me at any point and ask questions, and I'll be happy to take them. Okay, so kind of a context, right? How many of you have used B2B in BizTalk server, more of the EDI protocols and in different verticals? Okay, that's good. 5, 6, 7. Okay, many of you actually. Okay, and how many of you have tried out the B2B functionality in when we release the Service Bus EAI and EDI labs? Okay, none of you. So you guys are the perfect audience. So what we're going to talk about is the functionality in the Service Bus EAI, EDI labs, and how it evolved into the B2B functionality in BizTalk services, and what are the capabilities that we are lighting up. Just to step back and set the context, right? We're going to do some real quick definitions, right? So what is B2B? Since you guys are already aware of it, I'm going to quickly go past this slide, right? So B2B is all about partners, creating partnerships, and this partnership can be across different business units, it can be across different geographies, it can be across different companies as well. So in essence, what we are saying is B2B is a set of partners creating partnerships across different geographies. It could be someone from North America connecting to someone in Asia, someone connecting to somewhere in Africa, Europe, you name it. You can have the connectivity in place, and for each type of connectivity, there's a protocol, there's a format, and there's obviously a standard around it, right? Now, so what we are summarizing is B2B is all about partners, agreements, and partnerships. Let's not focus on the terminology specifically, like what an agreement is or what partnership is. That's more of the technical. But think of it from a business detail. Whenever you, let's say Microsoft wants to conduct a business with another company, let's say for Xbox, obviously there's an agreement, one from the business side and two from the technical side that needs to happen. The software that we are providing today helps you build the software, the technical side of the agreement, right? And since many of you have used BizTalk, none of this is new, right? We have been shipping B2B in BizTalk server, and it is one of the biggest workloads on BizTalk server today. There are various verticals, right? Be it healthcare, HL7, Swift for banking, manufacturing, retail uses X12 and Edifact. There's insurance, automotive, education, energy. There's chemical industry. We do Sidex, RosettaNet, bunch of protocols. So each of these verticals come with their own standards and protocols, like I mentioned. And just as a recap, BizTalk Server 2013 actually has a host of B2B improvements, including things around schema updates and performance improvements for HL7. Some of those capabilities actually push the envelope for B2B capabilities on BizTalk Server. So what is the opportunity for such a feature on Azure? So before we go into what the capabilities are, let's step back and look at some of the opportunities that we have when it comes to the cloud. So first and foremost, we have lower onboarding cost, and this is something that we have heard consistently from our customers, that they want lower onboarding costs. It's not what you don't want to set up an agreement, a partnership that spans weeks, and especially if you're a retailer, the large guy, you don't want to spend your cycles investing the same amount of time for each trading partner relationship. At the end of the day, there's some amount of IT cost that's involved, right? Then there's a need for a self-service portal. How do I reduce the impedance mismatch? Not all of my partners understand EDI. Some of them actually use, there's a backend MyOB, or you have your own QuickBooks. So how do I integrate that with EDI? There is also a need for business analytics. And if you attended Sriram's last session, Nimbo walked in on the stage and showed this very cool V8 app with all the, the Bing maps and all of the tracking data. How can I build as a customer? Does the platform enable me capabilities to build such a solution, right? There's a need for elastic scale, managed infrastructure, HA, and reach. Many of these are cloud benefits, and you would, in some sense, expect those benefits when you're running B2B on Azure, right? Okay, just to summarize some of the asks from customers, right? It is reduction in transaction cost, reduction in the time to onboard a partner. Can you guys provide us more out-of-the-box capabilities, especially around archiving, right? We've heard that ask multiple times, saying, hey, can archiving be out of the box? And I just use it like enable, disable using a checkbox, and the feature is available for me. Some customers also asked for managing certificates. Hey, one of the partners, if I remember right, they had more than 24 to 30 certificates, and every year they had like at least one certificate expiring every month, and they had to prepare for that ahead in advance to ensure that there was a handshake between them and their client, so they actually got the certificate processing correctly. And obviously simplify the whole trading partner management system. We do it using admin console today. Can there be a better experience? And yes, the self-service part. So some of this will be shown as demos in today's session, more as color to say that, hey, these can be extended, and you as a partner and customer can take that and build your production scenarios. Okay, let's switch gears and see who are we building this for, right? Yes, we did highlight the asks, but who are we building this for? So the first set of customers we're building this for is the service provider. The service provider is kind of the middle guy, right? So the service provider understands the nature of EDI when he talks to the retailer, but when he talks to the suppliers, suppliers have very little IT investment. So he has the capabilities in place to translate that EDI message into more traditional formats like CSV, text file, XML, and the MyOB that we discussed earlier. The advantage that the service provider gets is, one, he's able to bridge the impedance mismatch, and if he has like a canonical format built in between, that reduces the translation cost. Right now, you can onboard one supplier at the same cost of that you've onboarded like any other suppliers. Right, your cost of onboarding a supplier drastically comes down. This is one category of customers we're targeting, and I believe Nimbo spoke in the earlier presentation, and Nimbo is a service provider who is delivering a solution on EDI for their customers. The second set of customers we're targeting is enterprises and SI. Right? This is slightly different in that the enterprise has their own IT investment. They understand EDI. They publish a spec that says, hey, this is the set of formats I understand. This is the set of acknowledgements. And the distributor or the other partner downloads this information, including sample messages and established trading partner relationship. So we do have some of our enterprise customers who are opting for this model. So they would move their solution onto Azure for their B2B processing. And we could extend this, right? You could always extend it and say, hey, the enterprise can actually be talking to a WAN, and we support talking to the WAN as well. So in the demo that we'll be seeing, we'll see how we can integrate BizTalk services. You can send a message to GXS, and that relationship can be set up in a matter of minutes. Right? Any questions so far? OK, we're good. So I'm going to skip this one. So this highlights some of the capabilities of BizTalk services, the different pillars that we support, we've newly added, and Sriram and Javed have already spoken about it, so I'll skip through this. What we will see is, with a whole set of features, how are we moving the needle for B2B, right? So what we have is a set of existing benefits on the server today. So you have agreement OM, you have protocols, you can integrate with for EI processing, there are agreement templates, batching, correlation, and so on. There's a truckload of features that are already shipping with server today. Now introduce the cloud benefits, right? Now you have a config-driven interface, it's a managed service, it's a dedicated service, so you get your own environment, Microsoft takes care of the patching, the updates, and then there is training partner management API. There's access to the model using web portal, rich tracking. So there's a whole bunch of cloud benefits that are surfacing. Now, all I need to do is do A plus B. And the net is you get a whole set of benefits by running your B2B on Windows Azure BizTalk services. So now let's move on to, let's go deeper into the functionality for B2B on BizTalk services, right? Now, let's actually define, now that we all know what B2B is, let's define what B2B on BizTalk services is. We looked at some of the capabilities, but I do want to highlight it using a set of pictures, right? How many of you play chess here? OK, very few of you. Well, the question was not to ask of any move or move. It just says that chess is inherently complex when you compare it with others. There's a bunch of strategy, moves, pawns, rooks, and whatnot, right? So it's not like playing chess, right? It's more of playing checkers. How many of you play checkers? Chinese checkers? OK, there you go. There's a larger audience, right? So the intent is to highlight the simplicity, right? It's not like you're climbing a mountain, but you're actually climbing a staircase. It's not as complex as solving this differentiation equation. Anyone in the audience has already solved it before it? OK, there you go. There's one guy. Yeah. So it's not about differentiation. We are actually talking about integration. And integration is all about, the yellow equation that's much simpler than the one above, although both are really the same thing, right? So what we want to say is B2B on Windows Azure BizTalk services is all about making B2B simple. Again, in the last session, if you saw John's talk, he had actually shown this nice matrix and said, hey, can anyone read EDI? And there was a bunch of flat file text scattered around the screen, and it's somewhat complex to just look at a message and say, yeah, I realize that there's an acknowledgement missing, right? But the fact that it is on Azure makes it a whole lot of simpler, both from a configuration perspective as well as from a management perspective. We'll look at it using a simple demo. In a few minutes from now. OK, let's push this further, right? Now, it's not like driving a bicycle. Any idea what's coming next? It's actually as good as driving your car. Now, interestingly, I showed this slide in Amsterdam, and folks in Amsterdam said, hey, we like actually the picture on the left. We use bicycles a lot. Right? So think of the analogy is actually about having a much powerful vehicle that can actually take you from one point to the other, right? OK, it's not as cat. Any idea what's coming next? OK, I heard someone in the audience. It's as powerful as having a tiger. Now, the intent, again, is to summarize that B2B on Windows Azure BizTalk services is also about making B2B powerful. Now, where is the powerful aspect coming up? We will actually look at it through using a demo. It's simple and powerful, and the way we'd illustrate it is going to our BizTalk portal, and we'll have a demo of our agreement being connected to GXS. Let me switch slides. Okay. So how many of you seen the portal, Windows Azure BizTalk portal? Okay, few of you. So what I'll do is I'll quickly run through what this is in the first place, and then we'll go into the GXS demo. At the outset, think of this as being your equivalent of your admin console, but not quite of one-to-one mapping of all the functionality that's built in. What it does is, once you have deployed your configuration, be it an EAI or an EDI, you can come to this portal and manage the set of artifacts that you've deployed. In the admin console world, you'd have seen that as like parties, you'd have seen role instances, BizTalk instances, you would have seen whatnot, the message box and all of that. So, but the model architecturally is different, but think of this as being your manageability interface to configure. Right, so there's a bunch of tabs. There's partners to manage your trading partner relationship. You have agreements. Bridges are your entities to remove or minimize the impedance mismatch, right? So source A might have its own port, its own format, its own protocol, and destination might have its own pair, right? So you try to bridge your impedance mismatch, and you can have that using bridges. Resources is about having the so resources is about having your certificates, your schemas, your transforms, and you can also upload custom assemblies. So I do get questions a lot on saying, hey, you have schemas here, EDI schemas, and we already ship a bunch of schemas for BizTalk server. Are they compatible? The answer is yes, and the format is the same. So if you have any existing schemas in BizTalk server, you can use them for BizTalk services, as long as the whole protocol version is maintained, right? And of course, we have a very rich tracking view. You saw the tracking view even in Sriram's session. We'll go into a different flavor of the whole tracking model towards the end of this session. Right, so that's in a nutshell what the portal is trying to do. It's essentially serving you as a tool to manage your BizTalk services information. Any questions so far? Okay. So now let's go back to the demo, right? So what I have is I'm trying to connect to GXS. So the premise is there is one partner that represents GXS, and there's one partner that represents Microsoft. And I also need an agreement between the two trading partners, right? GXS inherently, they support AS2 in this example. So what I'm going to do is I have created a TechEd GXS partner, and every partner has a profile. So for the GXS profile, I have uploaded the certificate that I got from GXS. So they're probably mandating some signing, encryption, compression in place, which is their specification. So I've got the certificate, and I have added into this profile. Similarly, I have created a Microsoft partner, and the Microsoft profile has our own certificate, and this includes the PFX with our own private key, with the one that we would use when we are sending encryption or signed messages, right? So there are certificates for both the partner and profiles. And now I go to the Agreements tab, and I want to create an AS2 agreement between GXS and Microsoft, right? So I have a pre-created agreement just to save time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to key in the set of inputs GXS and Microsoft mandate in terms of what is the sender ID, receiver ID, what should be the send URL. For example, if you look at it, let me quickly open a tab. If you open the tab, there you go. That's the service that GXS is running live, and I'm just going to access that service. I've used that as my transport. Inbound URI is where I push my messages from my system into the cloud. So there's a URL that my agreement expects. I translate it. In my message, I've said enable signing when you're sending a message. So it should be SHA-1. The message should be encrypted and pump the message to GXS. When I receive a message back from GXS, it would be at this address. I am expecting a signed message, so GXS would be sending me a signed message. It could include the MDN as well. MDN is the acknowledgement for the message. and I would route that message into a service bus queue, right? So this is it's a very simplistic setup for my agreement relationship between GXS and Microsoft. I could go one level below and also define the X12 settings between the two, but for the purpose of this demo, I want to limit the configuration at the AS2 level. So what I'm going to do is I have the inbound URL to which I pump a message, and what I'm going to do is open my message sender. This is a sample tool that we ship as part of the SDK samples. So I have input my issuer name, issuer key. What I'm going to send is a data input. It's a test message. I'm less interested in the payload because I'm going to wrap it up using my AS2. And let me go ahead and send this message. Okay, it's sending data to the endpoint. And it was successful. Right, so I go back to my portal. Now, I need a way to confirm that the message actually went. So I'm going to go to my tracking view. And you can see that 1038, right? So 1038.36. So there's a tracking entry that says AS2 message sender route. So I know that there is a message that has moved from my system that has been routed to my send pipeline and it has reached the other partner. I can always dig deeper into the details by saying, oh, okay, this is agreements 9. And if I go to my agreements view, I can see that 9 is this. Oh, okay, so someone has actually used my agreement to send a message to GXS, right? But I actually wanted to know what happened to that message, right? So I go back to my tracking view. I go back to protocol. We have a nice AS2 tab. Click on it, and it says, okay, there's a TechEd MS to GXS, and a message that was sent, and the message was accepted. That's good to know. You can see that the time is 10:38. Yeah, it's the same message. So you can click on details, and you can say, okay, you can download either the message that you sent, or you can download the message that you got back. So I have enabled tracking and archiving for my agreement, so I can actually capture each of the messages on both the directions. So let me say incoming sync MDN, download, let's give it a name, TechEd MDN, and we'll save the file. Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to go to my desktop and open it. So you can see that GXS has acknowledged an MDN. So it just says that, hey, the message has been processed. It gives me a bunch of details. Don't worry about this. This is just a hexadecimal value that it says that, hey, it's actually giving me a signed message. So this shows that you can actually connect your BizTalk services running on the cloud. It's powerful, yet simple in terms of the configuration. I just got this working in a matter of minutes, and you can send the message, and it's powerful enough to talk to other networks for EDI. Any questions? Yeah. I'm sorry, could you use the mic, please?
The question was, when you're configuring the AS2 agreements, can you set it up to allow multiple EDI IDs associated?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. So the question, so when you have an AS2 configured, we support two models. You can have one AS2 talk to one X12, which is typically the case, but we also support one AS2 talking to multiple of your X12s. In a typical WAN scenario, you probably want to have one AS2 talk to your WAN, but on the back end of your BizTalk services, you can have as many X12 agreements as you want. So that multiplexing is supported. Any other questions? Okay. So let's move back to the deck. So the demo kind of illustrates, just to summarize, right? The whole configuration is simple, and definitely it is powerful to be able to talk to other WANs. Now, we want to go further and say, hey, this is good. Like there is simplicity, there's powerfulness. Can I extend it? And extensibility has been one of the value propositions of the BizTalk platform right from the server, right? We did that for server for almost every other component you pick for BizTalk server, be it pipeline component, be it tracking. Everything is extensible almost in the BizTalk lands in the server side. On the services side, I think you heard from Sriram and Javed that, hey, there are components like you can write custom code, and I believe Mustansir is doing a session in the coming days to talk more about extensibility. But the one I'm referring to here is, hey, this is good. At a solution level, can I extend it? Good example is what I referred to in my previous slide. Yes, you can add a partner. Yes, you can add an agreement. But can I have self-service? Can I add another way to onboard my partner that is different from what you've shown here? Interestingly, we had a customer we were talking to a couple of months ago. They looked at it and said, yeah, thumbs up, like all looks great. Now, I want to plug another solution, which I have my own web interface that I use at my business level, and I don't want to be able to change that. Right? All I want to do is use that solution and have hooks into the framework that you have provided. So I expose a consistent interface to my customers, and they use the same interface, and can you help me with that? The answer is yes, it is possible. And what you're going to do is actually show the power of extensibility using a SharePoint example. What we're trying to do is, you did see the BizTalk services portal that I showed to you. I'm not going to use that portal. I have built a small interface on SharePoint Online. And behind SharePoint Online, I have created a workflow. And this is the same component that we own in our team today. And with that, I'm actually going to create a partner in runtime. So the interface that your customers will see is SharePoint Online, but at the back end, you would still use the BizTalk services interface. So let me switch back to my demo. OK, so let me bring up the, yeah, OK, there it is. I've run it. So this is my SharePoint Online portal, and I've created a grid table with a bunch of form filling entries, right? Think of this as being used by your IT department, and pretty much you can put the standard approval workflow that you already have in place today. I do have, I'm not going to go deeper into the details of how I created this, but I do have this is my SharePoint designer, so I have my workflow, and it's fairly straightforward. Whenever there is a new request for a partner that's coming up in this portal, I'd send an email. You could plug in your own approval process, so not every partner can get into your system. There's an approval process. Once the approval process is in place, I actually call a service, and the service is going to create the necessary partner and give me back the result, and I can see that result in like a bunch of places, including my workflow history, right? Any questions on what we're going to do? OK, good. So let me start the workflow. Too many items that have been added in the last dry runs. So this is my simplistic trading partner interface that I'm going to use. I'm not going to fill in any partner or agreement here. I'm going to say the supplier is TechEd, some name. I'm just going to leave the defaults in the interest of time. Protocol, yeah, I'm going to use X12. I'm going to give a dunce ID. That's 46. Let me choose a transport, AS2. I need an AS2 ID. My ID encryption for AS2, let me not have it. I have an option to upload a certificate here that can be used for AS2 creation. I'm going to skip that one and say, OK, I want to use 850 and 810, right? So this is my simplistic interface. I'm going to submit the request. OK, it got submitted. Can go to my workflow history. Let's see how the workflow is doing. OK, it's saying it's calling some service. The workflow has been instantiated. So this is somewhat into the working details of how the partner creation is happening at the back end. It takes a couple of minutes, and you do get an email notification. So a bunch of folks in our group just get an email notification saying, hey, looks like there's a new partner that has been added and needs your attention. So you can, it's more of a reactive alert, and then you log into the portal and see what's the next set of action that you need to do, right? So let me go back to my portal view to show that, hey, there you go. So you can see that TechEd NA Orleans is now a recognized partner in your portal. So the BizTalk Services portal has the capability to sync up. Yeah, it's based on the same data model. So even if you have to add your new partners and agreements using another interface like SharePoint, you can pick up those details. So if different people in your organization were using, like you were using the BizTalk Services, but your customer is using SharePoint Online, you can still ensure that your data model is correct. I can go into the agreements view, and in the agreements view, you can see that, hey, Fabricam, which is a customer I am representing as a company, has a trading partner relationship with TechEd NA Orleans. So that illustrates the power of extensibility, right? You can plug in different interface to have the custom solutions built. Any questions on this? Okay, we good? So let me switch back to the deck. So this is good. So let's go deeper into the capabilities, right? One of the questions we do get asked is, hey, this is all good. It's simple. It's powerful. You can extend the solution. But you know what? As a customer, I have some existing investments. Now, how are you going to take those existing investments and make sure that I can leverage some of the benefits that you're talking about on the cloud? And the answer is yes. We are thinking about it, and we'll illustrate with a couple of demos on that front. Okay, so there are two areas, at least, that we started looking at when we talk about migration. The first one is, hey, I have agreements, partners created already on BizTalk server. Can you help them move to the cloud? And the reason that we hear is we want to exploit the hybrid model, which is to say that I want to retain my business logic, my BRE orchestrations on my server, but I want to move my B2B workload, which tends to be efferent, right? It's more outbound towards another organization. So can I have that processing on the cloud? The second set of requirements we hear is I want to move my solution into the cloud. So this is more of a full-blown migration. So you're trying to move your business logic. You probably want to host workflows. You want to host an end-to-end app. This could be either a brownfield app that you've already created, or it's more of your next IT investment. You figure out that, hey, I can do a greenfield app which is completely end-to-end on cloud. That's the second set of requirement. We also hear folks from other platforms. And the one that we hear is on Gentran. And this is an area that we hear not from customers like you, but our own internal customer, MSIT. MSIT has their own investments in Gentran, and it's in some sense the Gentran 5.1 that they run has legacy formats. How many of you are using or have used Gentran? Okay, just a quick background. Gentran 5.1 uses a text format for a map, so that makes it super difficult for someone to understand or even write an automation around saying that, hey, if I wanted a translation from message 1 to message 2, how do I go about doing it? The BizTalk model is there's an object model around it, and you can process it in a fairly easy way. But when I looked at the Gentran map and TXT file, for a minute I was baffled, like, hey, how do you actually map a node to another node? It's very complex. The second one is the software itself. It runs on platforms that are or soon to be not supported. So there's a huge opportunity if you're a partner to be able to invest in having a Gentran migration tool that can read off the partner data, the map data, and move it on to the services platform. Right. The second set of requirements that we hear is, hey, we want to move away from a software like Gentran because we don't see enough functionality. things like batching, things like rich message tracking is not what we expect in the product today, and we would want to use that on the solution that you have. There are various other reasons. This is just handpick of what we heard from our customers, right? And in fact, the Gentran one is from our own MSIT team. So what we did for the BizTalk server, we are shipping a migration tool. The migration tool essentially aids you in moving your partners and agreements from your server platform into the services platform. And for Gentran, MSIT, our own MSIT team is working on a tool. I don't have any commitment on when that is shipping, but definitely you will hear soon on what are some of the best practices and what are the gotchas that they realized, and they would want to document it and publish it out as a white paper. So there is some amount of work happening on the second front. Any questions on this? Okay. So what I'm going to do is show a demo for both of these. Let's start with the BizTalk server migration. I would need to switch. So let me go back to the partners list so you get to see that there is no BizTalk server partner. It would be very clear. It's prefixed with BTS for simplicity's sake. That's not there at the moment. And I have a BizTalk server 2010 VM. This is running on IaaS, by the way. So in the BizTalk server IaaS VM, let me open admin console. I have a set of partners, BTS server partner 1, BTS server party 2, and I have created one X12 agreement and one AS2 agreement between the two, just to illustrate that, hey, you could migrate each and every type of agreement that's out there. By the way, Edifact is coming. I'm not shown Edifact. That's something we're working on. I know we've heard that feedback loud and clear, even in our earlier sessions and some of the labs that we have. Edifact is also coming, and once it is there, we would have that rolled up into the tool as well. Okay, back to the setup. Just fairly simple setup with parties and agreements. Now, let me go ahead and start my migration tool. So this is a simplistic wizard that takes in details of your BizTalk server, in this case, BizTalk server 2010, and it creates those partners on Azure, right? Partners and agreements, of course. Right? So click Next. The server and instance from where the data needs to be picked up from. I just want to make sure it's right. Let me do host name. Okay, and I'm going to use my login credentials. Okay, so once this is done, it's going to connect to my BizTalk server, and it's going to list the set of database that are there. And in this case, I'm going to point it to my management DB. I'm going to pull in some of the data that's there related to EDI. I click Next. It's going to ask me the other side of the equation, like saying, hey, what are the credentials of your services, right? So whenever you deploy your service, you're going to get a deployment URL, an ACS URL to access that deployment, which contains your namespace information, issuer name, and issuer secret, right? I have that pre-created. I'm just going to paste it. And you need the ACS name, issuer name, and the issuer key, right? So just a side note on what this URL is. This is my deployment, right? Default is happening to be the sub namespace. The $partner management is the URL to my OM API, right? So every deployment has its own trading partner management OM, and which is exposed as a WCF data service. And I connect to my WCF data service using that URL. I just append it with a $partner management, and that's my connection, right? So I click on next. So it's going to fetch the list of partners from my server. It takes a few seconds, and you should see two partners. One is the BTS server party 1, and the next one is party 2. Okay, there you go. What it does, it also shows you the profile count. By default, we choose to export all the profiles. We don't give an option there. So now we have server party 1 and server party 2. I've selected both. Click next, and it's going to migrate the partners one by one. Okay, so what it actually did was read the partners from server, push the partners to the service, right? So the migration of the partners is complete. If I click next, what it's going to do is it's going to do a fit, right? Now, for the set of partners that I have, what is the fit of agreements that I can have? And it makes sure that that collection is like it's a closed graph, right? So you want to get the list of all agreements. You should see the two agreements. One was the BTS X12 AS2. Is that just checking? Yeah. So these are the two agreements from the admin console. I do want to migrate both. Before I do, let me make a quick check that I don't have agreements with that name, because you can't create agreements. Yeah, I don't have that agreement in place. Let me go back to my BizTalk machine. Those agreements are chosen. Click next, and it's going to migrate the agreements one by one, right? Okay, it did that. So there is X12 agreement, X12 protocol between the two. AS2 agreement migration is complete. Next, this is a summary of what the migration, right? The list of partners and agreements. You migrated 2 partners and 2 agreements, and that's done. So let me go back to this and refresh my page. I should see my partners and agreements. The count is increased to 12, which is good. So there's BTS server party 1 and 2. Agreement, I have BTS X12 agreement. I click on the AS2 tab, and you have BTS AS2 agreement. Any questions on this? Sir? Yeah. Right. So so the question is, hey, the agreement state is listed as a draft while the previous one is listed as a deploy. What is a draft, right? The answer is agreement has states. The moment you create an agreement, when you launch the portal or when you launch the OM, the agreement is created in a draft state. It means that you have not realized it with a corresponding runtime endpoint. It's not still active. Once you click on deploy is when we associate the necessary route endpoints, the URLs, and then it becomes into a deployed state. Whenever you're using your OM API, by default, the agreement will be in draft state. So you would have to click the agreement, open it up, add the schema, add your route URL, and then click on deploy from the portal, and then the agreement is active. So in some sense, this is also a safe measure. So you ensure that a port is not the same as a URL, right? Although they might be using the same transport. So this ensures that you have the correct settings pulled in from your corresponding server, in this case, and have that written onto the service as well. Any other questions? Okay. So what we'll do is go back to the deck. Okay, we completed the Gentran migration. We have another demo for, we completed the BizTalk server demo. Now we'll see how the same model works for a Gentran migration. So let's go to, actually I would need to switch back to my VS. Okay. So this is my management studio for SQL. The Gentran box is built on top of the data model using SQL Server. What we have done is created a partner in Gentran, and the partner model is actually being tweaked into the model that we understand in the server world. So we have SQL here, and SQL contains a bunch of all partners. And interestingly, Gentran takes a partner. They don't have an agreement model. So there's a map information and a list of all transaction details that are part of each row. So we actually ensure that all of the details are available in a single data model. And we would take these details from the Gentran database, and we'll push it on to the cloud. So we get all of the information of Gentran, and we'll move to the services world. So for that, I've written a simple migration app. Again, nothing super complex. A Scratch or like a sample app is also available as part of the SDK samples. You can take a look at it offline. So what it does is it first connects to the Gentran system. It fetches a bunch of details on what the partner is, what are all the ISA GS settings that Gentran has configured for that relationship, pulls that off, and then there's a utility that takes those details, and we go ahead and create a partner and profile on Azure. Good so far? Okay, so let me run this. It's not a fancy UI. It's a simple console app that we rigged. There you go. So it's going to migrate all the partners. I'm just going to hit continue. It's going to create a partner and profile. The partner in this case is MSIT. So there you can see that MSIT is the partner that I'm creating. And I'm going to create the partner. So let me step off this and hit continue. So once the partner has been created, okay, so what would happen is you would see the partner being created on the services front. I believe this is due to. Let me come back to this. I believe the partner already exists, and I just didn't happen to clean it up. Let me go back. Yeah, there you go. Actually, the partner exists, so that's the reason that didn't quite work out. Okay, I'm going to delete my agreement. That was we had like a couple of dry runs before I actually came on stage, and the partner and agreement were already created. So you could see the delete feature that I have enabled. It was not part of the demo. So all you have to do is click on a partner, select the profile, click delete, go back. Again, choose the partner and delete. I'm deleting the profiles of both the partners. Now I can select the partner and click on delete. Same here. I can go click the partner and say delete. So interestingly, I do have a nice search button. So if you have like hundreds of partners, you can just start typing TEC, and you can notice that the list automatically updates. So there's an easy way to choose a partner. This is one of the functionality that we just rolled in towards the end of our release, based on customer feedback, of course. So let me go back and give it another shot. Have it here. So I'll say start. Okay, there you go. So yeah, so it created my party, it created my partnership, business identities, agreements. All of those information were created. Let me go back to the portal. None of those partners are listed. Let me refresh it. You should see those two partners that I deleted, right? MSIT and the other partner. And if I go to my agreements, you should actually see that agreement, MSIT profile with. So what I've done is now I've extracted this agreement information of Gentran, and now it's available in my services side. And as we discussed earlier, the status is in draft. You can tweak that agreement, and now you're off Gentran. I should mention that this is just step one of probably 3 steps you would do. This is step one. So step 2 would be you would look at the maps that Gentran has, and we are looking at MSIT. Our own MSIT is looking at a tool that can read the text maps of Gentran and get it into a model that we understand in the BizTalk land. It could be BizTalk server or it could be BizTalk services. We understand the model, and we'll have the maps also migrated. Once that is done, there's a bunch of model-wise, there are some differences that you would have to reconcile, right? And more details would be published in the white paper. I don't want to go into the details. You can catch me offline if you need more information. Once that is done, you would, of course, run a bunch of sanity messages that you pass through Gentran, capture the result, replicate that on the services front, and make sure that, hey, you have parity in the end-to-end solution of your Gentran side into the services side before you go live. Any questions on this? Perfect. Okay, so let's go back to the deck. We have about 25 minutes. Yeah, okay. So, which is good. Now, we are one step further, right? We said, hey, you can create your own agreements, talk to GXS, that those were new agreements, which is good. Then there was a requirement saying, hey, I already have existing agreements on some platform. We picked up those, we pushed it on the cloud. We said, hey, that's also possible. Now, it seems like you can pretty much cover all your new greenfield scenarios or brownfield scenarios and have your solution on the cloud for B2B. The second question that comes up is, yeah, that's good. Things are running now. Messages are flowing through back and forth. Now, how do I track those messages, right? You saw a glimpse of the tracking portal, the BizTalk portal with tracking information, which is fairly good. Like you get to see what's going in, coming out, status is failed, download message, troubleshoot offline. And we also have the same Visual Studio experience of generate instance and validate instance. For many of you familiar with the BizTalk server Visual Studio tools, we have a similar capability in the services as well. Things are going well, but then think of a scenario where your IT admin walks to you and says, yeah, this is good, things are working, but I don't want to be able to sit in front of the portal and hit refresh every time, right? You don't want to just hit refresh and wait for the first error to happen and then say, oh, okay, let me react to that. You probably having your own devices, you want to be proactively, you want to receive alerts and then say, okay, now is the time I'm going to go into the portal and troubleshoot a problem. In some sense, it relates to the demo you saw earlier where there was the Win8 app, right? So what we're going to do is look at the requirement of the actual runtime, where now messages are flowing back and forth. You want to gain insights into the messages. For example, you want to know who's your trading partner with whom you transact greater than $1,000, right? Or who are your top 10 partners today, either by revenue or by message volume. Some of those information is already present in the tracking database that we have as part of your deployment. So pretty much you can mine that information from a relational model. You can move to an analytics model and build all the fancy reports, right? Or you could look at that information and say, okay, let me plug in a mobile app, a Windows app or a Windows Phone app that connects to this tracking information via mobile services, right? There is also tracing information for custom code. I wouldn't go into that details. Mustansir will go deeper into that topic. And of course, the analytics part that we discussed. So what I want to highlight is I want to take that tracking data. I want to plug in a mobile application, actually a Windows 8 application, and I want to be able to receive alerts whenever there's a problem, right? So this kind of gives me the proactiveness saying that, okay, I'll go to the tool only when it's required, right? So let me switch back to the laptop. Okay, so what I have here is, let me bring up my screen. Did I put an icon? Yeah, okay. So there is a TechEd notification. Okay, there's a resolution thing. I would have to change the resolution. I think I built it for, yeah, I wasn't sure. Oops. Yeah, give it a second. So let's go to the notification. So I have a simple notification demo. I'm going to run this. me try if the lower resolution works. Okay, it shows differently, but let me see if the app is not complaining. Okay, it's not complaining. Good. So this is my Windows app. It's fairly simple. It's built on top of the to-do item that you've seen from mobile services, except that we've tweaked it to say that, hey, on the left-hand side, you don't get where you fill in your to-do. It's more of the errors that you get from your agreement that's hosted on the cloud. You click on any of those details and you get errors, right? Fairly simple example. So what I'm going to do now is shift to Visual Studio. I have a sender app that can actually send messages to the cloud. So think of this as your customer. He's transacting with you for the agreements in the cloud, and he's sending in messages. Some of them may be good. Some of them may be having some faulty structural or message level issues, and you want to be able to handle that and give that notification app to your IT admin who can look at it if there are errors coming from your partner, right? So that's the setup for this demo. Right, so this message sender is being used by your customers. Let's start this one. Oh, okay, sorry. It wasn't the message sender. It was the message RFQ sender, EDI RFQ sender. That's right. Let me start this one. Yeah. So this is my simple RFQ app, right? The client app that my customer is going to use. He's going to fill in some details. What details is being filled, I can show it to you from my agreement. So there is a Northwind Conteso agreement. So Northwind is sending Conteso an RFQ message. So I will be receiving an RFQ message from Northwind. You can see that I'm Conteso in this case, and there's Northwind. The ID is CO for Conteso and NW. They're important, but because I'm going to tweak this to some junk values and send a faulty message later. So CO and NW. So you receive a message. It goes via the transport. And in the protocol, you accept 840s, which is good. You transform it. It converts into a sales order, which is even better. Now, in my route, I have a success route and my suspend route, right? In my success route, I'm going to say, okay, if you think that the message is good, where do you want to push the message to? In this case, it says it's going to give it to a bridge. So there's probably going to be a route to LOB kind of scenario in this case. But if things fail, push it to a queue, right? So because I want some form of persistence, because later on, I can build my own message repair, resubmit kind of scenario. In this case, I'm reading off this queue for faulty messages and trying to do my notification. I do have a service which can communicate. So what I'm going to do is I have my WinApp running in the background. Let me open up this RFQ sender. I'm sending a message to Conteso. The guy using this is Northwind. So you're going to say, it's there. Today, there's some product item code that he wants. There's some quantity. Sender ID, receiver ID. Okay, I am NW, CO, but I don't want to do CO. I'm going to do CON. So there's some con happening there, right? Let me submit the message. That's okay, that's fine. So the message is, yeah, there you go. So the message is being sent from NW to CON actually, but there's a thing. And there's a bunch of fields that we have filled in for Conteso from Northwind, right? So there's a bunch of messages. Now this message should have got into the tracking application. So I'm going to go here, open this up. And let's quickly note down the time. So it's like 11:17. So, all right. So let's say refresh. One second. I'm just going to see, so one of our CAT members has written this nice tool called Service Bus Explorer. So I'm just going to fire that up and see what is the queue information. Let me close this one. Let me go back to my demo. I'm just opening to make sure that I didn't modify anything earlier. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's something to do with the project. So what you would see is you would have those information pulled off from the service bus queue, and the service bus queue would indicate the details of the message. So let me go ahead and quickly check. Right, you can go here. Okay. So this is actually this is another queue. Give me a second. So this is going to this queue, and you get the connection information. You can connect. To the EDI orders queue. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just do a peek on the queue. Sorry, this one. Yeah, okay. So there is one message that is there in the queue. The message is peeked from the queue called EDI orders. So all I need to do is read off this queue using a service that can pull this message and give it to my notification service, right? So let me have this notification. Right, so let me go back to my Visual Studio, and I'm going to do, just going to open up the service that can read off the queue. Just quickly, this would be, yeah, actually I would, yeah. I would need to run it in administrator because if I'm not running the service in Azure, I can run it in using the emulator, and I can still read that message off the queue and push it to my notification services. Right. So you saw that there was one message in the queue. I'm going to read that message from the queue and pump it into my Win8 app. Any questions while this is running? Okay. So this one, the emulator started. Okay, it's got some request ID. So this is just pulling messages from the queue. So you can have a worker service with a service bus queue. That's a new feature that service bus has enabled. So you could read it off the queue and pump it into the Win8 app. Okay, so let me go back. I can show the demo offline as well in the interest of time. Yeah, the message would be dequeued, and you would get an alert on the application. Okay. Yeah, I think there is the service is being down or something. I'm not able, but I can definitely show the demo offline once this comes up. Any questions related to this? Okay. So the key takeaways, right? So we kind of reinforcing that BizTalk services on Azure is in preview, is in public preview, and you can sign up and use the capabilities. B2B is a key scenario for BizTalk services. And there were 3 things that we talked about. One was the simplicity. You could have your agreements configured up and running in a matter of minutes. It's not weeks. And we saw the example of connecting to GXS. We also saw the powerful platform with access to the tracking data. You can also have rich interactions, and the platform is also extensible. And we saw SharePoint Online being used as an interface for customers to onboard as partners into the system. Partners are going live. Some of the customers you may already have heard in the earlier sessions, and they are delivering end-to-end session. With BizTalk services, the value you get as customers and partners is you get to lower your TCO by moving your solutions on the services platform. With that, I would just like to call out some of the links, where you can download the SDK samples, where's the portal, some of the blogs that we've been writing. And some of the sessions that both relate to BizTalk, related to Service Bus. There's one on patterns of cloud integration from one of our MVPs as well. With that, I would like to open it up for any other questions. Okay, thanks a lot. Oh, okay, so, man. I did get the notification. I just want to, oh, there you go, on the right. Yeah, there you go, it's been beeping. Okay. Yeah, sometimes there is a delay because a lot of folks are using Wi-Fi. Okay, it's still pinging. So you still get notification errors, and it says error message from Fabricam. You can click on that. Thank you.